تفسير أي ظاهرة كيعتمد على الأرقام والمؤشرات، والأرقام اللي توصلنا لها في هذه الحلقة كتقول أن من أصل 4304 متابع في قضايا التطرف والإرهاب طيلة 20 سنة الأخيرة، كيتواجدوا اليوم منهم بالسجون 881 شخص، يعني أن 3423 شخص منهم غادروا السجن بعد ما دوزوا العقوبة السجنية في إطار قضايا التطرف والإرهاب. 54 شخص منهم تسجلات في حقهم حالة العود هنا بالمغرب، و225 منهم سافروا لبؤر التوتر للالتحاق بصفوف تنظيمات إرهابية. فإلا جمعنا هاد الرقمين الأخيرين فمجموع هؤلاء ما كيزيدش على 279 شخص، وهذا الرقم كيقل عن 10% من مجموع المفرج عليهم، الشيء اللي كيبين باللي فئة كبيرة من المفرج عليهم قرروا يعيشوا بشكل جديد وبأفكار بعيدة عن الفكر الإرهابي المتطرف، وقلة منهم اللي اختارت تعيش بعيدا عن المصالحة وظلت كتعيش في عالم التطرف والإرهاب اللي كيجي من وراءه فقط الخراب والهلاك. لنتابع.
While a minority of people persist on immersing themselves in extremist and terrorist ideology and incitement to terrorism, we find, on the other hand, the majority of ex-convicts of cases linked to extremism and terrorism succeeded in reintegrating the society, thanks to the efforts made by the state and by themselves as well. The one thing these people have in common is that they are all extremist and terrorist ex-convicts. They were among the 4,304 people who were arrested for cases related to extremism and terrorism in the period between 2002 and April 2021, following the dismantlement of 210 terrorist cells and the disruption of 503 subversive projects. Based on the official data provided by the Central Bureau for the Judicial Investigation of the General Directorate for the Territorial Surveillance. These persons accepted to talk to us with courage before the camera, after they decided to break with the extremist and terrorist mindset that led them previously to jail. So, what drove them to abandon the radical thoughts they were immersed in the past? I was thinking of reintegration when I was still in prison. There is a saying, I quote, "The mindset that causes problems is not the same mindset that finds solutions." I saw tragedy at the family level. The family is a victim, and so am I. The path of terrorism and extremism is not the right path. I broke with Judaism and extremist thoughts after I took a moment for reflection. I sat down and analyzed the ideas I was believing in once. After I gave it a thought, I deduced that it was nothing more than a waste. At that very moment, I firmly decided to change. Now I am changed. The decision to bring about change took a long psychological, intellectual and mental journey. Personally, I have been searching for the truth at all stages of my life. Even when I was with Salafi Judaism movement, I was looking for the truth. I remember when I was still a very young man, I was asking myself, is the truth here or up there? To be honest, reading and knowledge helped a lot in bringing about change. What I learned from books is that a number of thoughts I was brought up with are false and wrong. I found out that these thoughts won't be for my own good. As a person who wants to open himself to life and live a better future, someone who wants to secure a better future for himself and his family. When I was in prison, the staff, the director and some inmates warned me against the path I was taking. They told me it's the wrong path. The idea that I was taking the wrong path always occupied my thoughts, especially because many people warned me against it. I came to the conclusion that it was indeed the wrong path, and that the path of extremism is not the right path to take. The path was leading me to self-destruction. The realization I was following had many limits. Hudud. Anyone who commits a mistake was killed and beheaded. This is not religion. It's religious fanaticism. The religion followed by terrorists is not a real religion. It is not the religion called by our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. If the Creator, Allah, is the most merciful, then how can the creature, man, interfere in his affairs? Glory be to him. I am a former convict of terrorism and extremism, related charges. As soon as I left the prison, I reintegrated into society in a smooth and effective way. I worked. I got married. I build my own business and I employ many people. This is good. Praise be to Allah. I am no longer a self-contained person sticking to a corner and start crying for what happened. Today, I am back to the normal course of life and I am fully reintegrated into society. I have my own business and I study Islamic studies in Ibn Tufayl University in Kenitra. I obtained my baccalaureate when I was still in prison. I go out for shopping in the market. I visit doctors and physicians. I go wherever I want without any problem. I have a good relationship with my neighbors. I have my husband's family with whom I exchange visits. To be honest, and with complete objectivity, even before my internment, taking into account the fact that I was a sheikh, preacher, I had an honorable status among people. I was fully integrated into society. Let's be honest, I think I won't have the same exact integration and openness to society and its diverse classes, sects, trends and activities as soon as I left prison. After I left prison, I felt the need to be open and cheerful once again. I traveled to different countries across the world. I made lectures in different countries, universities and official institutions. All was smooth and easy. I flatter no one. This is reality, and justice obliges me to recognize it. Thank Allah, I live a normal life within society. I was anxious before leaving the prison. Now I have a normal and much better life than before, thanks to Allah. After leaving the prison, some inmates felt anxious about what people might say about him or her, anxious about being bullied in the street by calling him a terrorist. None of these happened to me. I do my things in a normal way. I go out like many other citizens without a slight problem. What I did was quite wrong, but now I have learned the lesson. Each one of them has his own story when it comes to the break with extremism and the way he reintegrates the society and regained the normal course of his life. This integration was achieved either by the personal revision of one's thoughts or by the resort of the reconciliation program. This program was developed in favor of inmates convicted of extremism and terrorism cases. It is supervised by the Moroccan General Delegation of the Penitentiaries and Reinsertion Administration, in partnership with a number of partners, namely the Mohammedia League of Scholars and the National Council for Human Rights. So, what's the purpose of this program? The reconciliation program wasn't prepared in an improvised manner. It's the fruit and result of huge efforts made to deal with the issue of extremist and terrorist convicts' detention, though all the convicts share the same charge for which they were sentenced. However, there is a huge difference between them and various levels. Like, for example, their educational and intellectual level, namely in terms of mastering religious matters. Also, there is a difference in the degree of fanaticism. There are a number of inmates who sought help and assistance in order to grasp the religion.
في من يعبد لهم الطريق ويمد لهم يد المساعدة لاستجلاء الحقيقة وتعمق في فهم الدين.
The program was based on 3 axes. The first axis is about the self-conciliation. This can be done by granting them access to tools that help in achieving a better understanding of the religious teachings. These teachings are basically founded on the values of tolerance. The third axis is about the reconciliation with society. These 4 axes were set up according to 4 dimensions: the religious dimension, the human rights dimension, the legal dimension, and the psychological dimension. There is a psychological supervision and follow-up because the inmates suffer some psychological troubles. There is also a socio-economic dimension. On this point, the inmate can ask for assistance and supervision if they need to start their personal or collective project that helps in reintegrating them into society. We, as the National Council for Human Rights, try to disseminate some ideas and thoughts here. First, when it comes to the rejection of extremism, hatred and discrimination on the one hand, and the promotion of accepting the others and accepting diversity on the other. The reconciliation program aims basically to ensure the rehabilitation of a group of people who committed crimes or acts against the law. They need to better understand the issues related to human rights. Therefore, this program succeeded in the rehabilitation process. The problem arises after the period of detention, when the inmate left the prison. At this stage, we should see how we can reintegrate him into the natural milieu within his family, so that he feels stability again. Therefore, efforts should be made in this respect. The reconciliation program helped a number of extremist and terrorist ex-convicts to regain the normal course of their life and integrated the society again. In this respect, the Mohammed VI Foundation for the Reintegration of Prisoners ensured the follow-up of the said integration process. Now we're at Mohammed VI Foundation for the Reintegration of Prisoners. We are meeting with one of its officers who will tell us more about the role of this institution and what it offers exactly to the extremist and terrorist ex-convicts. When we talk about former inmates convicted of terrorism and extremism-related cases, we find that Mohammed VI Foundation for the Reintegration of Prisoners has already established a program that offers the psychological support and social follow-up for this group of beneficiaries. We have a special program of education and training. It aims to ensure the continuity and education process for the beneficiary after the completion of his prison sentence. Then we move to the professional integration access. This access is divided into two categories. Integration into the job market. This is done by accompanying the beneficiaries and helping them to get jobs with the companies and enterprises. Integrating through the follow-up in order to help them start their business. This is offered for those who suffer a vulnerable situation. This process is financed by the funds established in partnership with provinces and prefectures within the framework of the National Initiative for Human Development. The total number of former inmates who were convicted by virtue of the anti-terrorism law and then benefited from the follow-up of Mohammed VI Foundation for the Reintegration of Prisoners reached 785 beneficiaries, including 10 female inmates previously convicted of extremism and terrorism acts. It should be noted that the Foundation offered its support to all prisoners, including those who were convicted of extremist and terrorist acts. This document reflects that clearly. How are you? I am well, thank you. We work with you and with your family. We worked together on the health access. We worked with you on training with education. You did well after you enrolled in the faculty and pursue your undergraduate studies. The project that you are about to start will be developed into further big projects. We are now attending a session that includes extremist and terrorist ex-convicts in a center belonging to Mohammed VI Foundation for the Reintegration of Prisoners. With us here, an inmate in the same category who prefers not to show his face. He benefited in earlier stages from the support of the Foundation in terms of training and education. Today, he is preparing the creation of his business with the support of the Foundation. The role of the Foundation is to follow up matters after they left the prison. The Foundation grant me this project in order to prevent me from recidivism. The project has many goals, the most important of which is to break into the mindset I had before. We used to believe in radical ideas. The project will secure me and my family. The project is under delivery. It will help me out a lot. You can call me anytime. The follow-up and accompaniment shall continue always. Good luck. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Now we are inside the central prison of Kenitra. We have met with 2 extremist and terrorist convicts. They told us that they have decided to break with the radical Judaism and that they are prepared to integrate the society as soon as they are released. I was arrested in 2002 for what is called at that time Salafi jihadism. I was sentenced to the death penalty with the first cell by then. I spent 20 years in prison where I learned things that I have never known when I was outside it. Sometimes we think that we are doing the right thing. Then we discover later that it was totally wrong. Thank Allah, I chose to study and I got 3 BA degrees. The first one in Sharia and law, the second in theology from the faculty of Tetuan, and the third one in Islamic studies from the faculty of Kenitra. After I obtained my 3 BA degrees, I started my courses in the vocational training. It is always good to learn something useful while being in prison. I hope this sentence ends soon, so that I leave the prison and start serving my country and my society. The number of extremist and terrorist convicts who benefit from the education and vocational training program inside the prison over the period of 2020 and 2021 has reached 238 inmates, 229 of whom chose education and 9 chose the vocational training. They took this step in order to prepare themselves for the integration into society as soon as they are released. This inmate, for example, has obtained 4 Bachelor of Arts degrees in prison after he decided to break with his previous radical thoughts. I broke with the radical thoughts ages ago. Thank Allah. The moment I cut my ties with that ideology, I started a new life full of enlightenment, tolerance and moderation, just as our dear religion recommends. As soon as I leave the prison, I will have my experience with others. As soon as I leave the prison, I will share my experience with others and advise them not to repeat my mistake and pay a huge price accordingly. The cost I paid is my age. I deprived myself the enjoyment of youthfulness. I entered the prison at the age of 21 because of wrong thoughts. What a waste. Having said that, I thank my Allah for having the chance to correct myself. I also helped others to correct their thoughts, which they finally did. At least I did something good that compensates my wasted life in prison. Some extremist and terrorist ex-convicts told us their stories about the break with radical jihadist thoughts. They decided to integrate society and benefit from the support and follow-up ensured by the various programs upon their release from prison. This represents indeed an opportunity for them to reconcile their past, society and religious text. However, other extremist and terrorist ex-convicts tried to undermine the trust of the reconciliation program, adopted Dahir as a lifestyle, got themselves involved in terrorist acts, got arrested along with other members of terrorist groups, or joined terrorist militias in conflict zones.